What is up, kinfolk? I don't know why, but I've just been on this blast from the past type of vibe. So today we're going to review an old school documentary again, 1960s for whatever reason. These are all in the 1960s. This is all Australian television too. I haven't really come across any US based documentaries like this. Hopefully I can, and if you guys know any, feel free to just send me them in the comment section and I'll gladly take a look at them. The video we're going to be discussing is suitable for a job except you're a woman. But you already know what it is, kinfolk. Without further ado, let's get into it.
More women are working now than ever before. Without a female workforce, this big manufacturing plant would close down overnight. 40% of the staff here are women. Most of them, though, are doing routine jobs that men don't want. If any one of them decided she wanted to make a career in industry, she'd soon find strong limitations on how far she could go and what kind of job she could get. This young woman understands what it means. Mrs. Merica Johnson is a Bachelor of Science and has a Diploma of Applied Chemistry with 3 years industrial training. She can't get a job.
I apply, either usually written or sometimes telephone. And in all cases where I've written, they have sent me favourable replies because my qualifications apparently are suitable and they also think I'm a man. But when I arrive at the interview, however, they see, of course, immediately that I'm a woman, and the interview is immediately closed.
What reasons do they give for not wanting a woman?
Oh, well, many and varied. One company told me that I might be raped if I go into the plant.
Did she just say she would be graped? Yo. I've heard complaints to HR about how someone misgendered somebody else. She was told straight up, if we let you in here, we cannot guarantee your safety. And in fact, you're more than likely to be raped by your fellow employees. That gives a new perspective on things. It's interesting how you can be qualified for a position back in the day, and because specifically you're a woman, I can imagine some of the things that they would say, how a woman would be able to fit into a male-dominated area, if men would be a little bit softer on her, if she's going to be very emotional. I can already see where this is more than likely going, but that is very interesting. Wow, great.
But most women find it easier to flex themselves within the limits of the traditional roles they're expected to play. A lot of these women are the wives of business executives. This homemaker's course grooms them to help in their husbands' careers from the discrete background of home and family.
You pick up your knife.
This is definitely coming from an economic disparity perspective, or an economic perspective when they're talking about this, because you have to have been educated back in the day to even be considered for these positions, meaning you have to come from a middle class or upper class background. If you were lower class, you were guaranteed to be in a factory worker or a manufacturing job because you did not have the money to be able to go to college. So I think that even this, when it comes to feminism and how a lot of women back in the day were fighting for equality in the spaces. Manufacturing equality was just like, hey, we want to just live in safe conditions that ain't gonna kill us all. Whereas these women, it's more of like, hey, I did my time in college. I deserve to be in the same exact area as my male counterparts. It doesn't make any sense that, let's say I was graduated top of my class in college, next to a man who was just mediocre, he gets the job and I don't. So this is definitely an economics thing that I would say that isn't really brought up, is that lower income people were working for forever. So the women had to work either a part-time job or multiple part-time jobs where the husbands worked as well, and even some of the kids might even have to help out as well. So when people say that they're upset with the breadwinner mentality and that the men get to go out and the women don't, I think it comes from an economics perspective where you literally were in a position to where your man could be the only one working. At the end of the day, this all comes down to economics. If you had the money, you had the ability to complain about the fact that you got to sit at home and complain about having to take care of the kids while he's out working, and God forbid you had a degree. Whereas people who are lower income, their fight was going to be a little bit different. Their issue is going to be along safety concerns. It's going to be for work hours. It's going to be for low wages. That's what their fight's going to be, as opposed to, dare I say, spoiled. I don't want to say that they're spoiled in that aspect, but I just think it's a different fight. It's a different fight.
Director of the Sydney division of the Institute of Management, George Rennick, saw a very different situation on a recent tour of the United States, where women are well represented in managerial positions.
I believe that management in Australia, do not put the same values on women executives that, say, our American cousins do. And the reason that I think they don't is that they doubt their leadership qualities, they doubt their decision-making qualities, they doubt their human relationships with the people that they work with and work through. They think sometimes that women are in an executive position cause more chaos amongst employees than getting the results they should be getting. And I know from talking to a lot of Australian managers that if they advertise a certain executive position and they establish a short list for the final interviews, and we'll say there's one man left in the short list and one woman left in the short list, invariably, in 99.5 cases out of 100, they'll pick the man.
And this is still true to a certain extent today. I think we've definitely gotten a lot better. We don't just automatically assume because you're a woman you're not going to be qualified for a position. But I think there are certain aspects that people do take into consideration when it comes to the type of woman. Because once again, it comes down to economics. It's not just the fact that you're a woman. You have to be a very specific type of, not just woman, I believe even a type of person to be in certain positions of power. How you have to be very disagreeable, how you have to be very cutthroat, and typically not a lot of women are like that. There are certain even types of men who can't even get into these positions of power because they don't have the level of cutthroatness. They're too nice. We typically tend to be more agreeable. We typically tend not to work the same exact hours as most men do. I knew a guy who would work on his birthday, and I was just like, absolutely not. It's my birthday, don't call me. It's my day off, don't call me. But even on his days off, he would be more than willing to work because he was all about his money. Some people, not all dudes are like that. Not all women are like that. If I were to generalize, I don't think that women in general are like that. And it does take a specific type of person to fit that role. And you're not necessarily going to find it in a woman. Could you? Yes, you could. There's exceptions to every rule. But I don't think you're necessarily going to find that. And then also with being disagreeable, another stuff too, you might excel in the office and career, but you might not excel in the social and romantic sense.
Miss Kathleen Holmes is one of the fortunate exceptions. She's administrative officer in the personnel division of a national manufacturing company and deals with management at all levels in the industry. She finds that social conditioning inhibits women most.
Just to show you what I mean, we were interviewing the other day a group of young men for executive cadetships, and part of this interview technique is a leaderless discussion of topics of mutual interest. And we asked them whether or not they thought women and men should be paid equally. And the discussion that rose out of this question was rather interesting, and it was quite obvious that of this group of 6 young university-educated men, only one of them didn't really basically think that women's place was in the home. And in fact, one young man went so far as to say that if real and complete equality of the sexes came about, the whole structure of our society as we know it would collapse.
I mean, we're seeing it play out in real time. The equality of the sexes is, to a certain extent, killing our society. We see women and men vying for the same exact positions, so the competition pool is a lot bigger. That's number one. Number two, the career-oriented woman, the one that's always like the great auntie, but never the one who's ever married. They want to have a man, but because of, once again, the nature of the structure that they decided, because this is all choices, they decided to input themselves into, it does not necessarily mean great things for their relationship. Most simple, nice, manly men don't want to have to do that. Most simple, manly men do not care about how much their girl makes. At the end of the day, if they have no time and no relationship with their girl, it's like, bro, why am I even in this? I want to have somebody who I can come home to, who I can kick it with. I want to have like my best friend there, and I can't even have that. She ain't here. She out there. Am I saying that everybody should be at home barefoot and pregnant? Not necessarily, but I will say, to a certain extent, having that isn't necessarily a bad thing either. I think there should be strike a balance. For the ones who want to get out there and do their thing, do your thing, boo-boo. Power to you. But I think there's the issue of how we've pushed this as this is what you should aspire to be, and anything else contrary to that is to be shamed and looked down upon. I've seen so many videos of women bashing other women for being stay-at-home moms, for being down for their husbands, who want to stay at home, want to cook for them, and they're just like, oh, you must love being a slave to your man. It could never be me. I'm not that type of, I'm a bad boop-de-boop-de-boop. But then these same exact women can't get a man. I'm not saying that that's all that life is, but if this is, you want the career, but you also want something else, you might have to sacrifice a bit, you know? I can't lie and say that this has been a completely great move to just have complete equality across the board. I think in some ways we are getting what we asked for, and we're paying for it. I will say that I think it is very admirable to see a lot of these women who decide to go against the grain, who decided that they would rather rock the boat and actually fight for what they wanted. My issue is, bringing it back to modern day, is that a lot of us have been brainwashed into believing that that's the only way to be successful. I believe that we put a lot on career and not a lot on family. And I think that's for both men and women. I feel like a lot of women and men have a lot of infighting because a lot of men back in the day put a lot of time and effort on their career, but their children suffered, their wives suffered. Personally, I think that there are certain women who could fit into these certain roles. It's not for everyone. I think that career is not for everyone. This is also coming from hindsight because this is in 2023. Happy 2023, you guys, by the way. We have a lot more opportunities and ways of making money from home while being with our children. That's why even when it came down to the pandemic, a lot of people didn't want to come back into the workforce because they're like, I can do all my work at home and still have time to hang out with my kids, still have time to, go and do things with the missus. I can go on lunch with my missus. In a lot of ways that we need to be more, this might be a female perspective, but, having the things that matter. I think that the things that matter are family. I think that the things that matter are our children being the future. And when you put career on top of them and over them, and this is what we've seen from men and women in general, people get lost. But let me know what you guys think, kinfolk, in the comments section below. If you made it this far, go ahead and like the video, as well as subscribe for future videos. And check out some of my old videos. I think you might like them. But as always, kinfolk, I love you. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.